Welcome to another exciting season on Patrol.
On Patrol with Santa Barbara PD is filmed on location in the city of Santa Barbara, California, thanks to the courtesy and cooperation of the Santa Barbara Police Department. All suspects depicted being cited or arrested and taken into custody are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Precious few things are more painful or frustrating than losing someone to a murder, an unsolved murder at that. About 15 years ago, a young mother of 5 was murdered here in the city of Santa Barbara. With the hard work of the detectives here in the Santa Barbara family, the case was solved. This is a story of finding something close to peace for a family that wouldn't give up.
This unidentified woman's body was found nude from the waist down, lying just beyond the trail, heading up to the popular Wilcox property on Santa Barbara's Cliff Drive.
I'm Greg Wilkins. I'm a supervising investigator for the District Attorney's Office. Prior to that, I was with the Santa Barbara Police Department for approximately 24 years. The call for this particular case came during normal working hours. It was July, it was summertime, it was 1992, and it was about 11:30 in the morning. What had happened were there were a couple of hikers that came across a body and called it in.
She had a rope that was tied around her neck.
The knot on the rope was unusual. Well, we didn't know what it was. We took it to the Navy, had them look at it. I mean, we took it everywhere. No one could really tell us what it was. There was a cigarette butt in close proximity to the body. Back in the shrubbery, some low-lying shrubs, was where the body was located. That's where the hikers found Korrina Nicholas lying there.
I actually arrested her for a drug violation just a few months before she was killed. She was living a high-risk lifestyle.
Korrina Nicholas was 27 years of age. She was actually a mother of 5. She was a fairly prolific drug user, and she was also a prostitute. One of the places where she hung around a lot, it was in front of Max Grog and Gross, which is on the corner of Haley Street and Anacapa Street. And we looked at their surveillance. There's about a minute and a half where Korrina Nicholas comes into Max Grog and Gross, buys a Yoo-hoo, which is like a chocolate drink, and then exits the store. So that's basically the last time that we knew of for sure, when she was alive. We literally interviewed hundreds of people in this case. We obtained 16 separate blood samples from people. There was one particular individual, the last person that we knew to see her alive, refused to give us a blood sample. Well, as it turns out, once we received that sample and sent it up to the lab, he wasn't the suspect at all. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
When you're working homicide, an unsolved is kind of like a rock you carry around with you.
Korrina's mother would call every now and then. She had my telephone number, but I kept telling her that, that I'm quite confident that someday this case is going to be solved. And the reason I was confident is because we had this evidence. And by 1995, they had taken our DNA and been able to upload it into the CODIS data bank, and CODIS stands for Combined DNA Index System.
And so then it was just like, okay, we had a good sample, that was in the computer, and then we were just waiting for our suspect to get busted and get his sample.
What happened in 2004 was Proposition 69 was passed, which meant anyone convicted of a felony had to give a DNA sample, and that was going to be uploaded into the CODIS system. By late 2005, his name popped up as a suspect in our case.
Tune in to the next episode of On Patrol, where you will see the conclusion of this story.
Korrina Nicholas was 27 years of age.
She was living a high-risk lifestyle.
This unidentified woman's body was found nude from the waist down.
We were just waiting for our suspect to get busted.
Someday this case is going to be solved. The DNA came back on the cigarette butt and on the condom. And both of those were a positive match, so we knew we had our man.
We get a match and it's a hit. It's like, okay, this is the guy. He was down here for like 6 months, and then all of a sudden he disappears, like right after her homicide.
So I went back to the case books and I started looking through them to see if we had interviewed him. And we hadn't. At the time, Mr. Edwards was serving time at San Quentin Prison.
He was just in on a parole violation, so his time in San Quentin was just a few months.
Then we find out that the guy was a tree trimmer, and that this knot that was around her neck was a slip knot that they used for trimming trees. And this guy was like one of the few guys that knew how to do that knot, and he could do it really well.
So when you put the rope around her neck, it was just to scare her, and that got out of control?
When one of the detectives interviewed Gregory Edwards' ex-girlfriend's father, that father took a look, because we had photographs of the knot, took a look at the knot and said, "Oh, I know exactly what that is. That's a tree trimmer knot." And Gregory Edwards has shown me that knot. He says, once you tie that knot, you can't get it loose.
There was a reason for this thing to happen, okay? There was a reason for that to happen. We need to know. And we need to know it now.
At the end of that interview, you could see that he had been through, for lack of better terms, an emotional ringer, because he realized that he was caught.
Gregory Edwards came to court and he pledged straight up to first-degree murder and took a plea bargain of 25 years to life. After the arrest, my travels took me to the Los Angeles area where Korrina Nicholas, his mother, lived. I still had her address and her phone number, and instead of calling her, I made a personal trip and spoke with her in person and told her that we had arrested the person that killed her daughter. And it was quite an emotional moment. And those kind of things, you know, make you feel good. If it's your case, you will carry that case with you forever. I mean, this case with Korrina Nicholas for 14 years, I carried with me. And from time to time, yeah, it would be in the back of my mind. I would think about it a lot. And you just can't help but not think about it a lot. So thankfully, you know, the police department has still dedicated, even during these tough economic times, an investigator to keep looking into these unsolved homicide cases. Really, I think it's outstanding.
Thanks for joining us. See you next time on Patrol.